Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Comfortably Disturbing webinar. My name is Craig Ball, and I'll be your host this morning. Before we get on to today's topic, I thought I might just quickly give a recap of our last webinar where our co-founder and co-director, Mr. Ian McPherson, brought us up to date with available financing options for SMEs in this COVID-19 environment. If you missed the webinar, you can still see the video on our website, www.afan.com.au. Today's topic is how to promote your brand in a professional way. And our speaker this morning is Georgia Lane. Now, Georgia is the owner of Fastlane 30 Consulting. She's the founder and president of Women of Influence. She's a co-founder of AFAN. She's married. She's a mum. So welcome, Georgia. My first question to you is, what the hell do you do in your spare time?
Yes, I don't have a lot of spare time, Craig, but I'm sure that's something that happens when you get older. You run out of spare time. I do walk my dog every morning very early, and I love yoga. So that's what I love doing in my spare time.
Well, very good. But seriously, before I ask Georgia a few questions, I just want to explain to our attendees why I approached Georgia to join AFAN in the first place. And now I've known Georgia for well over a decade. And they say that if you want to get something done in this world, give it to a busy person. And not only does Georgia get something or get things done, she also executes them in a first-class manner. And I knew that if we were going to be successful, not only in building, but also in promoting our brand, then I simply had to get the best. So I approached Georgia, I explained our concept to her, and then basically I got down on my hands and knees and begged. And she decided to come on board. And we're just so thrilled to have her as our head of marketing and as a co-founder. So Georgia, tell us about your experience and what you love doing.
Thank you, Craig. You did not beg. I've had the pleasure of knowing Craig for many, many years, being in the financial services industry, and I'm really proud of what we've built with AFAN. It was, Craig's idea, and a group of us got together and we started it from scratch. That's what I love doing. I've been in marketing for 3 decades now, showing my age. Back when I was living in Sydney, I worked with Toshiba, Telstra, Microsoft, some of the bigger brands. And then when I moved to Queensland, ANZ, OnePath, Scandia. And I've had my own business, Fastlane, which is a marketing consulting firm, since 2000. It was a namesake of my dad, and we were just chatting about that. My dad designed and built Fastlane boats. And so I've continued on the brand. And what I love doing is helping businesses and business people like you, Craig, to put together a great marketing machine. I'm really passionate about branding, that, if you do put the right tools and things together to look professional, it doesn't need to cost a fortune. You don't need to have a full marketing team, but you just need to have a few things in place. And then a few steps and processes to make sure that you're marketing your business in a professional way.
And so how can an SME business owner actually invest in marketing and then expect great results?
There's a couple of things. I mean, if you've got somebody in your team who is interested in it, I would be looking at somebody, perhaps a consultant, who can help get the right things set up. Or if you've got, website developers, graphic artists, and all that sort of stuff. Getting all those tools set up and in place, and then creating a bit of a process. And if you've got somebody in your team to do that, that's great. If not, then, outsourcing, to somebody like me. And there's a lot of marketing consultants out there. Businesses, small to medium businesses, don't necessarily need to have a full-time marketing person, but it is important that all businesses do invest in it.
Now, I've heard you on many occasions talk about the 5 steps. Can you explain what these steps are? So someone starting from scratch, is there a particular process that they can follow? And you've always referred to the 5 steps. Can you enlighten us on those steps?
Sure, yes. This is something that I have been using for a long, long time. In fact, this presentation, I put it together quite a few years ago, and I've just updated it recently to have a chat with you today. The 5 steps that I believe in wholeheartedly and that I've seen work, and this is how I would approach any business, whether they're an existing business that wants an update or a brand new brand or business. These are the 5 steps, and I'll go through them now from 1 to 5, but then we can drill down into each one a little bit more. First step is knowing who you are and who you serve. The second is building a website that works. Third is choosing your social platforms. Fourth is planning what your program's going to be for the year and then breaking it down. And then the fifth, of course, is creating a content machine.
Yeah, I remember when you first started, and we might actually, we can just start at that step one. When you first started with AFAN, you actually took us through this process of discovery, I guess you'd call it, where asked us a lot of questions and made us think exactly about, you know, who we are. Why is that first step so important?
It's really important, I guess, like anything. If you're going to be building a business, you need to have a plan. You also need to be really clear on what it is you do and who you look after. I'm a big believer in niching down, and you know that's one of the things that I love about working with the AFAN team. We know, Craig, that you're an estate planning specialist, and you know how you help people and what their frequently asked questions are and how you can solve problems for them. Same with our other directors. Ian McPherson is a finance specialist. Paul Geisel is an aged care specialist. So really getting to understand what your special skills are and then also who you serve is just really critical. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. They try to be too generous and try to serve everyone. It is really important to first of all just go back and have a look what you want to achieve. And one of the things that we did, which I really loved doing, was, you know, we all sat down together and tried to project where we wanted to be in 5 years' time, what we wanted the business to look like, who we wanted to be looking after. And if you start with that, if you understand, you know, what your special skills are and who your target audience is and what your goals are, then, you know, the content that you create will focus on those things and you'll be attracting the right sort of person. Rather than, you know, just attracting people, you know, for the sake of it. And if people come and have a look at the stuff that you create and the skills that you have and they don't like you, then they're not right for you anyway. So I just, you know, I really believe that this is a great starting point and it's something that you'll continue to come back to. I'll just show you a quick slide of, you know, what that means. So what is your position on the starting grid is the way I like to explain it. Do you have a story, you know, how you got there? For example, you know, we were talking about with your webinar 2 weeks ago, Craig, and you talked about the first ever claim that you did and how, you know, you did a great job, but you felt that you could have done a better job. And, you know, that really drove you to become a fantastic estate planner that you are. So that's a really good story to share. It gives some people some context as to why they want to deal with you and why you're so passionate and skilled at what you do. Your avatars, so your avatars are your perfect beings. And the way I like to describe this is you actually think of a person who might be a combination of, say, your existing clients and a wish client, a client you'd love to have. And if you could put that person in and even give them a name, you just describe them in every way, what they earn, where they live, how many kids they've got, what they do for a business, you know, all those sorts of things. And actually maybe even, you know, write it out, even have a picture and put it up on your desk so you can see those perfect beings. And that is your avatar. That's, you want to put them into a box and press a magic button and create more of those so you can get more clients like them. And then it's about what goals you have. So how many of those perfect beings do you want? And then what is your special skill that you can offer to those people? So I guess there's the old saying that if you're marketing to everyone, then you're marketing to no one. So that's, you know, that's what's important about that first step in getting to understand.
Well, if we go to step 2 now, over the many years I've been in the industry, have built a number of websites. But when I compare it to what you've built, it's chalk and cheese. You know, how do you actually build a website that works?
That's a good question, Craig. And it's important. And thank you for the compliment. Our website is great. There's a couple of things here. Your website is the basis for everything you do from a marketing point of view. And these days, people who want to deal with you will go and find your website and look at it. So it's really, really important The first thing to getting your website tuned or having a website that works is choosing the right platform. I'm a big believer in WordPress. It's open source technology, and what that means is that anybody who's, you know, a developer or designer or even just a, you know, a marketing coordinator can be trained on using the platform, and can help you keep it up to date. And all of the plugins, or, you know, if you call them on your device, your apps, there are thousands and thousands of people out there developing plugins or apps for WordPress websites. So whatever it is you want to do, you can go out and obtain a free or paid for theme or plugin to add functionality to your website. That's just why I love WordPress. It also needs to be responsive, of course, and generally modern WordPress themes are going to be responsive. What that means is not only can you look at it on your computer, but you can also use it on your device, which is just so important these days. Probably for our industry, for financial services, the most important page on a website is the About Us page, because really it's about our personal brands. And that's where people want to go to. They want to get, and you know, I remember years back when I was at ANZ, you know, the research always said that 70% of website traffic in the financial services industry would go to the About Us page. The other thing is SEO. These days, I mean, you don't pay for SEO as such, but you do need to pay for an SEO consultant, I guess, to get in and make sure the website's set up properly with all the right tags, and, you know, keywords. And then it's just making sure that you've got up-to-date content that also points to those keywords and phrases. And then it's a matter of completing the social circle. So adding what your social platforms are that you're going to be using and linking those to your website. And then finally, essential trust signals. So things like testimonials, stories, and making sure that whatever is on your website is what you're offering clients. So that's a quick snapshot of making sure that you build a website that works.
Okay, so we build one. What happens next? So
what happens next, as I said, it's, you know, if you've got a WordPress website, it should be really easy to be able to update it. So I'll just put this next slide. It's really important with your website that you keep it tuned for SEO, and also for, you know, people are going to jump on and have a look at your website. If your blogs are 12 months old, it's not going to look professional. It's not good. So keeping your website up to date is really important. And having a WordPress website and somebody in your organization, or perhaps an outsourced company that keeps it up to date, is really important. If it is WordPress, you know, the open source platform means that it's also very important that you have all the plugins and security and backups done constantly. So, you know, engaging a company that can do that for you. I'm not sure whether you remember, a couple of years ago, there was a big thing called the Panama Papers. Mm-hmm. That was actually because somebody hacked into a WordPress website and accessed all of that information, because the organization just wasn't keeping their plugins and their backup and security up to date. So it's really important that if you have a WordPress website or any open source technology, that you're doing this. And just making sure that your website's doing the basics. So as I said, make sure you've got a good current photo and About Us on your About Us page, that you've got a couple of things like call to actions. That's a little acronym there, CTAs. CTAs are things for people to do next when they visit your website. So making sure that you've got you know, a subscribe button, a you know, contact us area that's really clear to follow, you know, whether you want to contact via email or phone, making sure that on your homepage all of that information is really clear, that your social buttons are there, and so on. So yeah, so that would be the main things that I would suggest in going to keeping your website up to date.
I remember when I built previous websites, the developers asked for a range of content, and I had already sort of libraries of information that I gave to them to put it into the content, but it was just very sporadically delivered. And one of the things that you insist on is planning your content. Why is that so important?
sitting down and actually coming up with a plan is essential, because otherwise, it's the same as a financial plan. If you don't step it out and decide what your goals and objectives are, then it's just going to be scattergun. So, and in our industry, it's quite easy to plan, because you can first of all sit down and work out what are the milestones throughout the year. When's end of financial year? When is back to business? When is the budget update? Normally in May. You can sort of lay those things down, and then you can break it down by quarter and decide what you want to focus on each time. So yeah, there's a couple of ways you can do that. I just want to say, I've just noticed there's a few questions that have come up in the Q&A. Do you recommend creating an avatar that can help everyone, even a mature business? So, while we're on that topic, I can answer that question. I think that creating an avatar at any point in time is really crucial. And even if it is a mature business, you should, as a plan, sit down. We do it 6 monthly. So Craig, Ian, Paul and I sat down only about a month ago and looked at our avatar again and what our goals are. And so, yeah, to answer your question, it's very important as a mature business to focus on what your avatar is. I remember, when working with financial planners for many years, they'd say, but we don't have a specific person that we deal with. I mean, we have young people, old people, all walks of life. Your avatar is the sort of person that you want to attract more of. So thinking of your avatar as new clients to the business. And so that's, what you're focusing your marketing effort on. And that's why, as a mature business, it's still a good thing to go back and look at that.
Georgia, I hear you use the term quite often, the marketing machine. And when I see it in action in AFAN, it really is a machine. It just pumps along and delivering constant content. Can you just explain how all that works?
Sure. So I guess there's two parts to a marketing machine. First of all, it's a matter of choosing your weapon. So that's step 3, and I'll just show you. You can't be on everything, but if you can just choose maybe 1, 2 or 3, and these are the ones that we do a little bit more, but these are the ones that we mainly focus on. So choosing your weapon, is about how do you market out to various styles of people and how they like to consume information. So no one person, people are not the same. Some people like to read, some people like to listen, some people like to watch videos. So it's good to choose a couple of different platforms and for different reasons. The ones that I tend to work with and that I think work in the financial services industry, definitely LinkedIn. And LinkedIn's becoming even more popular. I mean, it's been obviously a huge part of our financial services industry. It's the same in the legal industry. Even in, all industries, it's now becoming more popular, and very much since Microsoft bought it a few years ago. And it's coming ahead in leaps and bounds. It's a professional networking platform, and it has amazing capability to really search on specific roles. And it's just a great way to be out there in a professional way. It's not Facebook though. And Facebook's a different platform. In the financial services industry, I don't necessarily think that you need to be on Facebook. It just depends on what type of part of the financial services industry you're in. It is good to have a Facebook page, and certainly it's great, for messaging clients and keeping up with clients. I'm very passionate about email marketing. So I use MailChimp is the main one that I love using, but I just think it's a really great way to communicate and keep a fantastic database, and then also to link to the other platforms that we're using. And another one I'm really into is YouTube. So YouTube is actually, it's the second largest search engine after Google, but it's a great place for us. I'm a big advocate of videos, as you know, Craig, and then we use that as a bit of a hub. To a lesser extent, Instagram. I use Instagram for women of influence, but we don't use it yet for AFAN. So we've chosen just to focus mainly on LinkedIn and on putting our videos on YouTube. That answers, I guess, a little bit of the question about building the machine. And then I guess the next part, as we were talking about before, is focusing on the plan. So where do you go with the plan? So this is step 4. And this is like we did about a month ago, Craig. We sat down and we worked out, what our themes are going to be and what our targets and our goals are for the year. and then we start breaking it down. And if you know what the themes are, so starting with, as I said, end of financial year, or if you're going to focus on, particular estate planning issues or self-managed super funds or whatever it is, you lay those down as your goals, and they're your themes, and you understand what your target market is looking for and what the frequently asked questions are. And if you can identify what sort of questions your target market or your clients are coming to you about on a regular basis, what questions are you answering every day, then there's your FAQs. And that's where you start with creating your themes and your content. You just start answering those questions. And I think a lot of people, as professionals, we're doing this every day. We're answering questions, but we're not sort of thinking about how that can actually be content. And then, of course, making sure that when you're answering those questions, you've got some sort of call to action. So making it really easy for people to then do something after they, have a question answered, or they land on your website, or they read your blog or watch a video. Having that call to action is really important. And that could be something as simple as, for us, for a fan, our call to action is just reach out and contact us, and maybe have a Zoom meeting or come and see us in the office and meet the directors and see if a fan's right for you. For a financial advisor, it could just be that, just make an appointment, come and see us, obligation free, half-hour meeting or whatever it is. Or, can you just send me more information? It might just be something like that. It could be something as simple as just subscribe so I can engage. We've got a lot of people in our community who just subscribe to either receive our regular newsletters or to attend our webinars. So that's...
I think the greatest point that I take from that is I always look back at, the last 20 years of running a business by myself and trying to promote it and doing it, by yourself because you've attended one or two seminars that one of the insurance companies or institutions have put on where they've had a marketing person talk for a couple of hours. And then you'll go back to the office, you'll implement one or two things, and then you'll get caught up in the everyday stuff of running a business. Staffing issues or compliance or keeping up your CPD points. It's just too hard to do the marketing properly when you're a single operator. But one of the things I love about bringing all the different specialists into a fan is that it's given us a lot more grunt, and then we can actually have a full-time marketing person that has the experience that can just run this for us. And we know that it's just humming away in the background, and we can focus on what we do, and it's just so much more effective. It's terrific. I noticed, Georgia, that there's quite a few questions coming through. We might go to them now because it seems like the listeners have a number of questions I'd like answered.
So let's address the first one. Georgia, you mentioned that the entire marketing machine was built from scratch and the colour scheme, logo, etc., all look very professional. How did you come up with the branding themes? Thank you. That's anonymous. Yes. So when we talked about the sort of process that we went through in the initial phase, this is something I, really believe in. I've been doing it for years. I have a bit of a process that I go through, and I went through this with the guys from a fan. I show them, colours and brands that are out there and ask, do you like this? Do you like that? Which colours do you like? Which don't you like? And we came up with a group of colours that we really liked, and said colours that we didn't want at all. And then we looked at, for example, what our values are. I have known and work with Brand New You, which is Australia's leading personal branding organisation in Sydney, a lady called Emily Kuchar-Karlich, who's spoken at a number of the Women of Influence events. And she's taught me a lot about personal branding and branding in general. So I bring a lot of that into it. And I got all of the guys to do a special strengths survey to understand, what their strengths are. And I have a workbook that they worked through to understand what their values are. And so we put all of this information together, and then we come up with, what our vision and our mission and what we want to look like and who our target market is and what will appeal to them. And so we really just sort of narrowed it down. And then I've got a group of people who are graphic artists and designers who I then put that to. So I say, these are the colours that we like, this is what we don't like, these are the brands that we like, these are the fonts that we like, this is what we don't like. And then they come up with a couple of different designs with colours, and we say whether we like them or not, and we just narrow it down from there. So that's how we came up with the branding themes and their logo and everything. So question from Ian, do you recommend, oh, we've already answered that one. You mentioned that if you are marketing to everyone, you are marketing to no one. What strategies other than SEO do you employ to increase visits from the target market to your website? There's a couple of things, apart from SEO. Very much, information on the various platforms. So LinkedIn, Facebook, constantly putting stuff out there. Using LinkedIn a little bit like you would do, networking with your professional community. So it's just a matter of putting information out there. We do a lot of videos. So people can watch a video on our area of expertise or answering questions, or, there's regular webinars. There's certainly ways that we're bringing people to our website, because when we promote, for example, these webinars, if people are interested in a certain topic and they haven't, watched one before, they'll see it on LinkedIn and then they'll visit our website to actually join in the webinar. Or, we'll create a video and put that on there. If somebody's interested in that particular topic, that area of interest, they might watch the video and then again come to our website. So it's putting stuff out there that is, again, focused on your avatar and their pain point, and getting people who are interested to watch it or read it, and that will generally lead them then to the page on the website, or then they'll have a bit of a look, or the button on our LinkedIn profile. That answer your question?
I was just going to say, Georgia, when you talk about the colours and the logos and things like that, and the path that you took us down, and there was a number of logos that we looked at that were okay, but the one that resonated with us is the one in the background here. And given my naval history, it immediately looked to me like what we refer to as a berthing hawser. And for those that don't know, you'd probably heard of because of your boating background, but a berthing hawser is the large rope that you see that's connected between a big ship, like an aircraft carrier, and the wharf. And even though they're probably, only about that thick, what they are is they're intertwined ropes. And what gives them the strength is that intertwining. And that's essentially what AFAN is about, is we have a number of specialists that have come together and all providing services on the one client file. And so it's like the intertwining that gives the organisation the strength. So that really resonated with me, and I know that the other co-founders had different sort of outlooks on what it was, but we all agreed on that particular logo for different reasons. It just made sense to me. It's great.
Yes, and also obviously the FAN, coming up with the acronym for Australian Financial Advisory Network. Not only that rope, but also the fact that it looks like a fan. Yep. And are you a fan of a fan? That sort of play on words. And I think that's the beauty of a good logo, is one that means different things to different people. You don't want to be, I guess, too specific. It's nice to have your own interpretation, but it's also very important to make sure that that logo and that brand and the colours can be used over and over again, because that's how you build brand. And that's also an important part of building trust. And that's, I think you'll notice with everything we do with a fan, we use the same colours. I'm really quite strict about that. We have a very robust branding guideline, and we have a huge toolkit of assets, branding assets that we can use, so that everything we do is going to be consistent, and consistency builds trust. So if people, visit your LinkedIn or visit your website or your Facebook or wherever they're going, if they see the same colours and the same fonts and that logo again and again, you're going to look like a more professional organisation, and they're going to, build that trust and want to deal with you. So yeah, good point, Craig.
Yeah. Are there any more questions before we close up?
Yeah, actually, Paul Herring was asking what's an avatar. I think I did explain that, but I don't know whether you remember the movie Avatar, but basically Avatar is a perfect being. So as I explained, it's who you want to attract more of. It's the perfect type of person that if you could put them in a magic box and press a button and produce more of them to deal with, that's who you want. And it's always good to keep that avatar in mind whenever you're creating content. And Paul also asked, how important is the copy, the words in a website? Surely bells and whistles, pictures and other graphics can't be the be all and end all. That's correct. Words are very important on your website for a couple of reasons. I mean, for SEO, so Google actually has algorithms that will look for certain keywords in your website that relate to what you offer. It's also, you know, people have such a short attention span these days that if they land on your website and you don't have the right words on there and answer their questions and appear to be what they're looking for, then they'll jump away. I mean, images are also important to that point. You know, I'm not a big fan of stock images and fake images. I love real stuff. I love photos of our real team and videos. So that's important too. But yes, Paul, words are extremely important. I think the only thing that I would say is not too many words. I think, you know, most people, the way that we consume information these days, if you open up a web page and it's just all words, people will glaze over. So a bit of a combination of both and making sure that you've got keywords in there.
I'll just add on that, Georgia, because this is something that we're very particular about under your guidance, is that if you're going to put words in, make sure you have a second person that actually reads it before it's published, because you know, we're so busy these days, you might type something and then just send it off. And then when it's live, you see that it's full of spelling or grammatical errors. So that's one of the advantages of having a number of eyes actually going over the document to check for those sorts of things, because if you are trying to attract the right person and they open up your website and it's full of spelling errors, they're probably going to close it down very, very quickly.
That's true. Yes, that's something I learned very early in the piece as a young marketing person. And wherever I have marketed, I always have a detail-oriented person who can check things. And we've got Grace is our moderator in the background there. Grace is my detail person, or Craig. Craig gets too busy sometimes, but it's so important. If you can find somebody in your organisation that can grammar and spell check for you, because, you know, the writer just can't do that. You know, I can check things that I've written 100 times and still miss things. It's just really important to have that second person reading through things, because there's nothing more unprofessional than spelling and grammar issues. That's right. I think that's all the questions we've got. I guess the only other thing that I wanted to say, you know, just on the whole marketing machine, is just find what your content production process is. You know, with us, we've found that, you know, these webinars are great, and we love video. So we do a lot of videos. And then I can use that content. It could just be Craig talking, you know, for a minute on a estate planning topic, or Paul giving an update on what's happening in aged care. Then we can just use that as ongoing content, and you can either use video or you can get it transcribed and use it as written content. But it's just a matter of working out what that process is. And one of the other things that I'm really particular about is we have our weekly, I call it a scrum for, you know, footballers. It's a resetting of play. So every week, without question, we as a team get together and we talk about what's happening and what our webinar next topic is, or what themes we want to focus on and what our goals are. So I'm a big believer in that, you know, as an organisation, it's key to get together, and that's how you create your marketing machine and keep focused on the goals.
The other thing with that is when you have a few heads getting together, the amount of creativity that comes out of it is just quite incredible, because someone will throw an idea onto the table and then someone will expand on it, and then others will expand even further. So what you thought was a reasonably good idea, when you've got a few creative heads together, it turns out to be an amazing idea. And that's the thing I love about our weekly scrums, because we are always coming up with incredible ideas from one person suggesting, why don't we do this?
Exactly.
So it really is a valuable part of our process. Georgia, thank you so much for your time this morning. I wouldn't even attempt to do what you do. It's just incredible. It's truly amazing. That's it for today, guys. Thank you for taking the time to tune in. In 2 weeks' time, we'll be talking about the state of the nation, and we're going to discuss a few topics. So the 4 co-founders will be getting together, and we're going to be talking about preparing for and actually undertaking the FASER exam. I went through it in November. Paul's just gone through it in the last couple of weeks. And we're going to tell you about our experiences, but also give you a couple of tips of what to do to ensure that you get through. We're going to talk about what you can expect when you start the graduate diploma. I'm sure a lot of you have already started and are a fair way down the track, but there'll be a great many who are yet to start it, and you really need to take the jump if you're going to do that. We're going to give you an update on what the AFAN team looks like. In the last couple of weeks, it's literally exploded. So we'll give you an update there, and also we'll talk about what we're learning as we head down this path. This is a path that none of us have ventured down before. It's really exciting. It's a bit nerve-wracking, but it's a lot of fun, and we'll tell you what we've learned so far. So stay safe, be good, and if you can't be good, be careful. See you guys.